same things?
No, very much. I say this in my book. That's why I don't believe.
What's the point?
That's why. But I'm not asking people to believe that if they don't follow my account, they can't be saved, and indeed may be condemned. So you have no knowledge of what ought to be an axiom, really, or at any rate a very strong injunction. Extraordinary claims should require pretty extraordinary evidence.
And how do you define that?
And these extraordinary claims have no non-contradictory eyewitness attestation of any kind at all. They can quite safely be dismissed as belonging to the prehistoric era.
There are 84 details in the book of Acts alone from chapter 13 to the end of the book that have been verified as eyewitness testimony by Roman historian Colin Hemmer. 84 details, eyewitness details, only could have been known by an eyewitness.
The Acts of the Apostles?
Yes.
There's no independent, none of the Gospels are written by anyone who was an eyewitness or present at the time of the supposed life of Jesus of Nazareth.
John?
No.
John wasn't there.
These are full of later accretions. That's why they're so full of contradiction.
Well, we could have a whole other debate, but you can get his book.
No one's been able to date the Gospels to anything like closer than about 20 years after the supposed events. That's a long, long time in which a rumor could get started.
Takes at least 2 generations for...
Let's now move to the next question from the audience.
Hi, I'm not really sure how to phrase this question, so just bear with me. Either can answer. But how do you explain biblical prophecies? How do you, like the fact that the Old Testament, thousands and thousands of years before Jesus Christ entered into the world, how is it that they prophesied when he was going to come, how he was going to enter into the world, where he was going to be born, how he was going to die, who was going to crucify him, who he would be crucified with, where he would be crucified.
I've got no problem with it.
And the fact that he rose from the dead 3 days later. How do you explain that that was prophesied thousands of years before it actually happened? I personally just want to know.
Well, but not all those events are as precisely foretold. That's why the Jews, in whose book these premonitions or foreshadowings occur, do not believe the Messiah has yet made his appearance. They are, in my submission, quite right to be doing that, though I think they're wasting their time waiting as well. Just to give you one example, it is said in the King James Version of the Bible, the one that was hammered together in England in the early 1600s by a committee, the best book ever written by a committee, certainly the best written, but nonetheless the work of many inexpert hands translating from earlier Greek and Hebrew work, say a virgin will conceive. It's in Isaiah. In fact, the word in Hebrew is alma, which simply means young woman. It doesn't make any reference to virginity at all. The other prophecies that are promised to the relevant king in that section of Isaiah, all of them fail to come true, even in the action as described in that book of Isaiah. However, the New Testament, you'll have to notice when you read it, says when, for example, Jesus goes to Jerusalem riding on a donkey, it says, "Thus it was fulfilled, as Scripture had foretold, that the Son of Man will come on an ass." Well, if you know what the prophecy is, and if you want people to think you're fulfilling it, you can just say, well, that's what we'll do, we'll produce a donkey. But that's not exactly seeing a prophecy come true. That's reverse engineering and self-fulfilling prophecy.
I actually agree with Christopher on that.
Jesus also prophesies that he will come back in the lifetime of those who are his listeners and auditors, and that is the prophecy.
Actually, Chris, that's not true. In Matthew 24, he's predicting he would come back in judgment on Jerusalem, not that he would come back in that generation. Secondly, I agree with you on some of these can be contrived, like coming in on a donkey. I understand that, but there are some, like he will be both God and man, and that he will come, the Lord you seek will come to your temple in Malachi 3. Also the fact, well, I guess that could be contrived too.
Yes.
But I correct myself here. However,
please make it brief.
Brief. Isaiah 53. Go read Isaiah 53 for yourself. And we have chapter 13 in our book that goes into this. Read Isaiah 53, which is known to have been written well prior to Jesus. In fact, it was one of the Dead Sea Scrolls that was discovered. Probably the most incredible scroll, 24 feet long. The entire book of Isaiah dated from at least 100 BC. When you read Isaiah 53, you will see how that points forward to Jesus. One other thing, if you want a book on this, Dr. Michael Brown has written a book. He's a Messianic Jew on this. It has to do with Old Testament prophecy. So there's a lot more to this than we can deal with in a 1-minute response.
Yes, I want to continue the nautical metaphor. I suspect you two are like ships passing in the night, because the topic of debate is which better explains reality, theism or atheism. But neither of you have told us what you take reality to consist of. So this is a question for both of the speakers. What is your conception of reality? Does it in particular include angels? Does it include the devil? Does it include immortal souls? Does it include demons and spirits? Or does it not include those things? What for you is the furniture of reality?
Well, I would agree with, obviously, if I believe the Bible, I agree with all those things you just mentioned. But when I was thinking about this debate, reality, the first thing you got to start with is the classic question: if there is no God, why is there something rather than nothing? So we start there, and then we move forward from that. And then we went into the fine-tuning of the universe, how the universe is precisely tweaked. And then we talked about the specified complexity in life and the moral law and the order and immaterial reality known as the laws of logic and mathematics. I think all those things are real. I think morality's real. I think mathematics are real. I think the laws of logic are real. I think theism better explains that than does atheism. So that's why I keep asking Christopher, how did the universe come into existence? Where does morality come from if you're a materialist? Where do the laws of logic come from if you're a materialist? I haven't heard many answers yet.
See, you'd do better if you said that since there are such things as angels and demons and evil spirits as you believe, you'd need a God for them to be true. And I think you'd be right. You'd be on much safer ground. How could that be happening? How could Jesus of Nazareth make a cluster of devils leave a madman and go into a herd of pigs that would then commit suicide? A wondrous miracle, if ever I've heard of one. If there was no supernatural dimension, if there was no God.
That's the only place, by the way.
In order to believe that, you would have to believe in the supernatural. But I think I did say, perhaps I should have spent more time saying so, that I'm a materialist and I do not believe there is a supernatural or paranormal dimension to existence.
He doesn't believe that, but there are immaterial realities. He just used one, the laws of logic. Where does that come from?
Let's move to the next question.
A question for Christopher. Do you believe in moral absolutism, absolute right and wrong?
Well, the best known example of this is what's known as the Golden Rule, that seems to be common to all societies. It long predates Christianity. It's certainly said by a version of it by Rabbi Hillel, Babylonian rabbi, and it's findable in the form of "don't do to someone else what would be repulsive to you," in the Analects of Confucius. And most people think of that as being, so to say, intelligible, absolute, and a basis for morality. The difficulty with it is, and the reason why I am in doubt about absolutism, is that a law like that is really only as good as the person who's uttering it. After all, confronted with Charles Manson, am I supposed not to do to him anything I wouldn't want done to myself? Self-evidently absurd. So fortunately, we're given a sense of proportion and of self-preservation, along with, I just said we're given it. You know how people talk. How sloppily one can suddenly speak. We have, by trial and error, learned the value of a sense of proportion, along with the need for human solidarity.